we think about GraphQL saving things. We think it might save us from overfetching, maybe. We might save us from implementing multiple BFFs or front ends. Do we really think about GraphQL as saving lives, right? And we think about the impact that GraphQL can not have only from a technology perspective, but in our surrounding communities. This is going to be a really, really exciting talk. So let's welcome to the stage David Sarabia. He's the CEO and co-founder of inRecovery.
So I don't think I can live up to that, but really, Uri, Eddie, Tanma, you guys did a great job. Let's give them a round of applause. That was such good talks. So on that note, I'm a little tired. I haven't slept. I flew right in from Mexico. But quick question to the whole audience. I'm assuming you're all software engineers, right? Mostly. Some product people, maybe. Maybe some of them sitting on this side. So has the CEO ever said to you, hey, this is really cool. Let's use this? Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, basically everyone's shaking their head. So I'm so sorry. That was me in 2019. 2 months, actually no, 3 months before launch. That's a mistake. We were just about to launch our first enterprise product or client deploy. And I was like, you know what? GraphQL is really freaking great. Let's use this instead. So, oh, and really quick caveat. We had a team in SF, LA, New York, Brasov in Romania, and Kiev in Ukraine. So that was not very cool. So my engineers were not happy with David's new shiny object, also known as GraphQL. And our dev origin story was basically, we started off with Meteor. I put a sad face there, sorry. And React Native for our mobile app. We then moved on to, during that whole like, hey, let's move on to GraphQL period. Let's rebuild everything in React so we have a lot more flexibility. Let's keep MongoDB since we're already kind of using that. And Redux for state management. It's quite great back then, but you know. Anyway, and then we eventually said, you know what, let's just go off and build a full-blown GraphQL monolith because we all start with monoliths, so it's just a natural progression. And now we're at this federation stage, which really is exciting, supergraph and subgraphs and all that. Now, I'm pointing at somebody, I'm so sorry. 3 months from an enterprise deployment, like I said, the CEO changes everything. What do you guys do? Resignation letters, start looking for jobs, opens for work on LinkedIn. And so they were pretty upset, for sure. But then I threw on my hoodie, which I brought onto stage, and I started coding with them. They were like, wait, this guy's actually a real technical founder. He can code, right? Sorry, this is a product. And that changed everything. When I started pushing commits, they were like, holy shit, this guy actually can code. This is great. The dynamic completely changed. He's one of us, right? And so this is my team, beautiful team that we had back then. I'm going to play a little video. That's us in Ukraine. I actually flew to Ukraine because we're all deploying a massive product. I'm like, I have to be there, right? So, and I was actually there recently during the war as well. I spent about 4 months doing humanitarian work. But anyway, we pulled it off. You know, after 3 months of late nights, tons of Georgian food. There's this little Georgian restaurant next to our office, which is delicious. And ungodly amounts of Red Bull. We launched. And it worked so well. But then came the actual hard part. What about actual enterprise customer adoption, right? Which is, we'll talk more about that later. A lot of the underlying tone about this is about the human element of GraphQL. So what is inRecovery and how much coffee did you have this morning? I don't actually drink coffee. You don't want to see me on coffee. 60-second origin story. So I started coding around 8 years old. I was just telling one of our colleagues here that I used to go to DEF CON when I was a kid, tell my parents that I was going to a gaming convention in Las Vegas. I was that weird kid getting the little 2600 magazine at 8 years old. Anyway, had 2 X's by 27. I basically used to be bullied a lot in school, so I just kind of stuck to computers and never kicked my butt. So got really lucky, but then I fell into addiction massively. Elevated from just a weekend party habit to heroin. I was homeless in New York in the middle of winter, which was pretty messed up. But I got back on my feet, and you know, just like the people in the streets of San Francisco that we just kind of discard. You never know who it is, right? And it was a simple act of kindness. If someone said a whole different talk, but that someone just we were talking about AI out of all things. I was having my coffee in the morning on 32nd and Broadway, and this random guy is just talking about AI, and he's like, "Whoa, you know a lot about machine learning and neural networks." And I'm like, yeah, kind of like reminded me of who I was. So I rebuilt myself, but I remained heavily addicted for many years. Unfortunately, cocaine was like a drink for me. And then my best friend unfortunately passed away, Jay Greenwald. He was the founder of Daytrend Media, really great tech guy, beautiful human being. And I went to rehab. I set my sights on getting my act together, and really just kind of bringing myself back to reality. And that was great. And that was where the vision for inRecovery was born, for this data-driven care model. How can we go into preventative care? How can we prevent people from going to this level, right? How can we make it better? And so why does all this matter, right? So humanizing tech. And I think something that Tanmay said really, really stood out to me in his talk. I was paying a lot of attention to his talk. It was the success, the business success, that you can set yourself up for business success with GraphQL. And that's really, really true. So proud teams, harmony between engineering and product, it actually happens. It's real. That was both product and engineering in that office jamming together. And highly engaged customers. And now you guys are like, this guy's definitely not sober, right? It's impossible. But the graph shows up in many ways in an organization. It really is something that is like a financial model to me. A financial model to me that tells my startup story in Excel. I started respecting, as a founder, we have 3 founders here that gave talks. You start respecting a financial model, so it's actually, I think this is laughing right now. One of my advisors and board members forced me to build a financial model for the first time in my life. I was hating it, and I loved them for it because I learned to tell my story in numbers. Anyway, so the graph tells people your business story, and you can actually really bring them together with GraphQL, which I think is what's really, really interesting. And you're modeling the problem. You're not really just looking at the solution, kind of bringing that design thinking approach into our engineering work. And I'll just do a super quick thing here. This is just basically how we evolved from this massive monolith. My CTO unfortunately left at one point, and I inherited this big monolith, and I couldn't do anything with it. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to tear this apart, and I'm going to just start piecing it out in subgraphs. And so during that process, we brought in a lot of our stakeholders into the table so that we can build in compliance, we can build in all the security needs way beyond HIPAA, because HIPAA is a joke if anyone is into encryption here, and really being able to truly, truly make an impact with this new system. So we use Miro a lot. There's a lot of Miro slides here, but this is product working with engineering together, right? We taught our designers to build state machines, to communicate in our language, so that we can actually work together in harmony and actually, do things right. And this is just kind of a quick sketch of our GraphQL strategy, really building up. I don't know if I can go back, but it's building up. If you see the bottom part there, that's the actual business model at the bottom, and it's basically then modeled around GraphQL. The survey engine, and this is this is actually a really cool one. This is a bunch of clinical stuff. We're doing MIRT, which is this way to two-factor analysis of survey data. And this is why you shouldn't let your CEO code, because this happens. I was not happy with the performance. I was done with all this recursion to just analyze surveys. And so I took a nap. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, this is just a directed graph, right? And so we built this thing, and this is now our survey engine. Our permission system was also one of those things. This is actually not GraphQL, but I just wanted to show it off because it's so badass. We run the permission check on every single request in our system, in our platform, because we have to, because we care about patient privacy, and we also want to be compliant. But we shut it down from 250 milliseconds to 0.008, which is awesome. And so it's this whole buildup of this entire system for the sorry for the middle finger. That's when when there's a lot of emojis on the graphs. That's usually me. It's really bringing in what are the actual human needs of the business, right? So we're looking at security being extremely important. We're looking at the fact that compliance needs to be built into our system so that our engineers actually understand what they're building. And I don't have it in the slides here, but we do these med talks internally, kind of like little hackathons, where our clinical directors, our clinical people actually teach our engineers and our product people about addiction, about healthcare, about this, about that. And it's so cool because you start really seeing people's minds just click, oh my God, what I'm building actually matters, right? So addressing human needs is such a massive, massive thing. And then I'm going to go back to the whole customer deployment part. And our learnings from the way that we were developing our software and working with our teams started to seep into our deployments too. And we then brought in this whole process where clinicians actually were part of the development of the software, and they were suddenly not requesting a bunch of things because they kind of understood, hey, this actually is a lot of work, right? This little thing that I'm asking for. But it also did something else that was their button, that was their idea there, that really mattered for them. So adoption just skyrocketed. It became like this, we had these weekly meetups with our clients, and they're part of, that's a development calendar. I mean, more like emojified and I mean, pretty, but it makes a big difference for them, right? We give a lot of feedback loops. We then like kind of show them like how there's a little detail there about usability. That's 5 seconds, 1 click. We time our UIs just to make sure that they're like super on, because we don't want doctors and clinicians to be doing things that AI can be doing. We have a lot of automation in our system and just better usability, right? And the whole point of this, and I'll just skip through this because I know we're up on time, is how can you engage and humanize your process with GraphQL in your own work, in your business, whatever you guys do. And I'll actually just ask one person in the audience. If you go, raise your hand, somebody. I'm going to pick on Uri if not. Okay, so Uri, what's one way that you guys, let's say using GraphQL, bring this full picture? Come up. Second time, so you're going to come up anyway. So.
Really impressive and really cool about everything you're doing, by the way. Thinking about how we humanize what we do, I think when we come into a company, there's always like layers of engineers. There's like the front-end engineers, and then there's like this middle GraphQL layer, and there's like the REST API layer of services, then there's another SOAP layer, and then there's many layers. And I think maybe it's a weird humanizing way to do things, but like the first questions that usually we ask is, show me if, and everyone is talking about like tools and optimizations, and should I use Mesh or Apollo or whatever. And what we always ask is like, what is the most critical action that your user is doing? Right. And show us the flow from the user till the query, through GraphQL, and then all the way down to the database and back. Like, and then the next question, where is it most painful? Yeah. And I think for us, that was the best way to solve issues for our clients. Like, instead of telling them, hey, you should use this gateway or that gateway, just show me action that is like slow or complicated, and let's see through that path, not just from your layer, but all the way down and up, how we can improve, and then how we can measure actually that it actually helped the user. Like, is the user happier? Like, is it faster, or they just, I don't know.
User happiness is a KPI.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's great. So as you guys can see, you can all do that at your job. You can all really bring GraphQL in as a strategic model to build your software, to actually make something, make impact. And like Uri said, make happiness happen with your users. So anyway, that's it. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.